Are you a new player and feeling lost in Ultra Rumble, or someone who's been playing for a bit but looking for some tips to improve? Well, this is just the video for you. We recently hit 30k subs on the channel, and I've been seeing a lot of you ask for a tips video, and figured I'd deliver for you. As always, I seriously cannot thank you all enough for all the support, taking the time out of your day to watch the content I make, give the videos likes, subscribe, engage with me in the comments. All that really does mean a lot, and I appreciate you all so much for giving me some time out of your day. Now, disclaimer before we get into this, if you feel as though you're an experienced player in Ultra Rumble, this guide will probably only serve as a refresher for you, as you'll probably know most of what I'll be covering. Now, with that out the way, let's start the guide by going over some settings. Now then, for the most part, I believe a lot of the settings in this game are good on default, but there are some settings I think you should mess with. Now then, starting with your sensitivity, this is something that's going to be more unique to you. I get people always asking what my sens is, but this is just what works with me. I quite literally just increased mine by 10 at the start of the game, and never looked back and kind of got used to this. You can play well on high sens, you can play well on lower sens, you can play well somewhere in the middle. Your sensitivity, it's all going to be based on how comfortable you feel with it. So you should just mess around in training mode, you know, mess around with the higher sens, the lower sens, and just kind of find some place that works for you. Because you can play well no matter what it is. Now, a setting I highly recommend turning off, because I believe it's on by default, is the camera movement setting. With it on, whenever you plus Ultra, it'll play a little animation, making it kind of hard to keep track of what's happening in a fight. However, with it off, you can just freely look around while you plus Ultra, allowing you to easily follow what's happening in a fight. Okay, so by default, whenever you pop plus Ultra, it'll play this animation like so, where you zoom in behind you. However, during the time this animation plays, it's kind of hard to keep track of where your opponents are. You know, obviously in the heat of combat, you won't know your opponent went above you, right? You're probably going to hear the sound effect, I suppose, but visually, you won't have no idea where to look for your opponent. So now I have camera movement turned off, and you'll see we go to back out. We pop plus Ultra, we can move the camera freely, allowing us to keep track of opponents and their movements in the heat of combat. Another setting that I would personally recommend changing is the show aura in battle setting. You can have it set so everyone sees your aura if you want to flex on people, your rainbow aura, or you can just make it so only your teammates see it. Again, your enemies will be able to see it with these settings shown, allowing them to, and that can work against you sometimes with some of these auras. They're very bright. You might go into a bush, try to heal up, and people know you're in there because they see your aura. It's happened to me a few times where I see someone with like bright red aura healing in a bush, and I kill them for it because they think they're hidden, but their aura is giving them up. So that's one that I personally have set to allies only, but that's just me. And the last setting I recommend changing, it's under display all the way here at the bottom, and it's called show damage. I believe by default the setting is set to show/high damage, and it can make it hard to know just how much damage you're doing. So for this example, I have Strike Deku. We're gonna go and shoot the other Deku, and you can see I'm just seeing a bunch of 20s, right? I'm not really too sure just how much damage I'm doing. All I really am seeing is a bunch of 20s that I'm hitting my opponent for. But if we go to the right and make it say show/high total, and we save that change, we will be able to see just exactly how much damage we're doing, because the damage will add up instead. So you can see very clearly you're hitting for 100, as opposed to seeing a bunch of 20s. This is a really useful setting for characters with multiple hitting attacks, so you can better understand the damage you're doing and how much health the opponents have remaining. And again, to show it on with Strike Gambi as well, you can see here, instead of just showing 19 a bunch of times, it'll add up, so I know in my head, okay, I hit that person for 166 HP, or shields, and I kind of have an idea of, okay, they have like 100 more shields that I have left to damage before they shield break. Next up, I'm going to quickly cover the cards you can come across the map and just how useful they can be. There's 5 cards you can find across the map, and each one does something different for you. Purple increases your reload by 50%, green heals you, blue gives you a movement speed increase as well as letting you run up walls, red increases your damage, and then yellow makes you more tanky. If you grab a card that matches your character type, it'll upgrade your skill. So in this case, I'm going to grab a purple alpha as Aizawa, and it's going to upgrade his alpha by grabbing it. I do highly recommend carrying blue cards for characters with no vertical movement. Again, they do let characters run up walls, which is very useful if you are a character who has no movement whatsoever, like Overhaul, Momo, and anyone else. Now then, by default, the cards all start at level 1 and they'll last for 5 seconds upon activating them. However, you can upgrade them to make them last longer. You can see I made that level 2. We activate it, it's going to last for 11 seconds. You're not making the card stronger. It's not going to be like a stronger or a higher reload speed effect increased, but you are going to make the card last longer. And you can also upgrade the cards as well, all the way up to level 9 like your other attacks. Now that if you have 2 cards of the same type equipped, you can actually stack them to up the effect. By default, we're doing 38 there. We activate 1 card. Now we're doing 42. However, if we activate both cards at once, so 2 red attack increases, we can really up the damage, and now we're doing 46. So if you have 2 of the same card, you can activate them together to amplify it. 2 yellow cards make yourself super tanky, 2 blue cards make yourself very quick, 2 green cards for some very good healing, and 2 purple cards for a very quick reload speed increase. Stacking card effects and leveling up the cards are very useful when combined with green cards. If you're already maxed out on your abilities, you should try to get your hands on some green cards as well. Try to get your hands on at least 2 to upgrade them with any rainbows you come across. That way you can activate both at once, and now you'll have a very good regeneration rate for a long time, depending on the level that you can get them to. Something I see new players do quite often is shoot while just simply walking, right? If you're landing your shots, that's good. You're getting good damage. That's amazing. However, by just simply moving like this, you're making yourself such an easy target to be shot at as well. So I really recommend getting the hang of moving while shooting. A lot of characters like to do dash jumps while shooting. The goal is to make yourself a tiny bit of a harder target to hit. That way you can do damage while also maybe dodging any attacks your opponents are shooting at you. And it's also important to keep in mind your positioning relative to your opponent. Right now I'm playing Assault Deku. I'm going for some dash jumps. I'm shooting him. Kind of dashing the same spot here, keeping the mid ground. If he's getting low HP, I'm starting to dash a little bit close to him. Get kind of in his face, maybe I catch him off guard with the beta kick for massive damage to down him. Let's say, for example, I'm a little bit lower HP, right, but I want to still do damage. Well, now I'm doing some jump shots going backwards. Maybe my teammates are moving in. I'm doing jump shots again, trying to do some damage while retreating. I'll go behind cover here, and I'll start healing up, right, while my teammates go in. So making full use of movement to make yourself a harder target, and then using that movement to either close the gap, to run away, or maybe just stay in the midfield right here, to just keep doing damage while just staying mobile is something you have to get the hang of. Now, there's something important to understand is making full use of the roll feature in the game. Rolling is such an important feature, and a lot of attacks in this game can be evaded simply by rolling. Overhaul Gamma, you can roll straight through it. Is there a Hawks player coming at you with a beta? Well, you can dodge it with a well-timed roll as well. Making full use of your roll is something you have to master, and also an issue I see a lot of people struggle with is the roll spam. We've all done it, I've done it myself. We're in a situation and we're kind of panicking, so it's literally just a non-stop stream of rolls. Sometimes this actually works out. Sometimes the enemies can't hit you, but more often than not, just roll spamming like this, you're gonna get hit, and you're probably gonna get hit with a combo that's gonna do a lot of damage. So it might just be better to just more or less wait for an attack to come your way, and then try to perfectly time your roll to evade said attack, as opposed to roll spamming and hoping you get lucky with it. Now, something I talk about very frequently in my videos is catching people's wake-ups, which has to do with iframes. So what are iframes? Iframes basically are invincibility frames that activate when you're hit with an attack that knocks you back. So here, Deku hits me back. You can see my character was glowing white. That basically indicates to me that, okay, my character for a short period of time is fully invincible. That being said, there are some things to know about iframes. First and foremost, you can more or less control where you kind of end up after the fact. You can see there I ended up going to the right in that example. And this time, by holding left on my movement stick, I can go ahead and go a little bit to the left after getting hit. So you can kind of control where you're going to attack. Left, right. You can also hold forward, backwards. So you can control where you're going to attack. You can hold backwards if you want to go a little bit further back. After getting hit, you can hold forwards as well to go a little bit forward. Basically, you can kind of control where you are after the fact. Now, while you are fully invincible, the second you do an attack of any kind, the second you use any of your quirk abilities, your alpha, your beta, your gamma, you give up those iframes instantly. Doing a melee as well. You can run around, moving around, running around. You'll still have iframes for a little bit after doing that. But using your abilities or attacking in any fashion will instantly give up your iframes, which ties into wake-up catching. Alright, now an example of utilizing your iframes, we have Tech Shoto here. They're going to go ahead and knock me down real fast. They set up the beta, they exploded. I'm not going to hit a button. You can see I didn't take damage. However, we're going to repeat the situation. They knock me down again. They set up the beta. They exploded. I'm going to shoot instantly. I gave up my iframes. So the difference between example 1 and example 2, I didn't do anything. I kept my iframes as long as possible. And then in example 2, I shot and lost my iframes instantly. Again, not hitting a button, we're fine. We go to do it again. Get knocked down. They explode. We shoot the enemies. We take some damage. It's kind of laggy right there, but you see the point. Basically, the second you do any action, you shoot, you do your alpha, your beta, your gamma, you do a melee, whatever it will be, you give up your iframes and are susceptible to taking damage. Now, this doesn't apply to moving. You can see here, we can just run freely and we'll maintain the iframes and we'll be very, very well. Now, then this next tip is a little more specific. Some characters have very lengthy executions and they don't let you act out immediately after. Right now, I'm trying to move, but you can see I'm locked in that execution animation and I could very easily be melted by someone else. However, the moment you get the kill with the execution, you can simply roll away and be able to move way quicker than if you let the full animation play out and wait for the game to let you move. So I highly recommend, if you're executing somebody, the second you execute, just roll so your character can freely act immediately afterwards. Next up is something that if you're a new player will have to come with some time and experience, and that's just understanding character playstyles. Let's say you're chasing a Momo, for example, and she takes you indoors. Chances are very high she's taking you indoors because Momo kind of shines heavily indoors because her cannons can work overtime inside. Vice versa, you might have a Nejire who's trying to lead you out in the open where you can't really hide from her beta and she can really just make your life a living hell. The main advice I would give to new people learning all the characters for the first time is try to learn the 3 character types in this game. So first off, we have the melee type characters. These are characters who only have melee attacks. Characters like Kirishima who more or less have to close the gap to do damage to you. And the main way to counter these characters is to play keep away. You run away from them, they're going to try to chase you, to hit you, and you just try to do damage while running away from them. Then you have the AoE characters that shine very heavily indoors. Strike Shigaraki, for example, you know, people who play him, they love going inside, putting his beta down, turning the inside into their own personal playground. Tech Shoto as well, you know, putting the beta inside, shooting the beta. They just love going inside, spamming the explosion, completely dominating the inside of a building. Inside a building, you're gonna have a lot of things you're gonna have to evade in a very tight space, and that's gonna be quite difficult to handle. So just know, going inside, fighting these characters, that's where they're at their strongest. So you might want to instead wait them out and wait until they have to leave their building and try to attack them when they're out in the open. And then we have your more standard shooter type character like Deku, for example. You know, standard projectile, they usually have some movement of some kind, and something else about them that makes them unique and is more so personal to them. This game has a lot of characters in it, and I know that's going to be overwhelming for a new player to kind of get accustomed to, because that's a lot of play styles you have to learn and get used to fighting against. But I feel like breaking it down into the categories can help you out a little bit. You might see a Kirishima, you can think to yourself, okay, Kirishima, he's like Ida, they're both melee characters. I'll keep that in mind. Momo's kind of like Tech Shoto. She's kind of like Strike Shigaraki. She has some really good AoE attacks that I have to keep my eye open for, so I have to be a little bit careful. And just thinking like that could help you while you try to learn the individual strengths of each character, because that will take time, learning what each character can do in their entire kit, especially if you don't have that character necessarily unlocked. Now that this is a team game, and it's very important you understand threats to you, but also threats to your teammates that may not apply to you. So for example, we have Tomura, right? He has a level 9 beta. This beta means nothing to me. I'm flying above it. It's not damaging me. But let's say this Momo is my teammate, right? She can't get off the ground like me. So while Strike Tomura may not be a threat to me while I'm on Nejire because I'm flying, he's really gonna make my Momo here have a very, very rough time. So again, while I might not see this Strike Tomura as too big of a threat on Nejire, I still want to kind of more or less prioritize going for him to make my teammate here have an easier time. My teammate who I damaged, I'm so sorry. But yeah, again, that's something I really try to keep in mind. Again, you know, now we have Nejire in this example. I have a projectile, I can shoot out of the sky. However, my Strike Shigaraki here, he can't do anything, right? So the flip side now, we have Nejire who's going to make my Strike Tomura have a very rough time. So as his teammate, I want to try to eliminate the Nejire and try my best to just keep her in check so Strike Tomura doesn't have too bad of a time. That way my team can function fully. The goal is to cover your teammates' weaknesses. Again, it's a team game, rock, paper, scissors effect. Some characters will be strong against other characters, right? However, there's 3 players on a given team. So ideally, you'll have a character on your team who can help cover the weaknesses of another character or the other 2 characters, at least somewhat. Something else to note, whenever you go for revives on teammates or you get revived, there is a way to recover from the animation quicker. So you can see here, I'm going to res Bakugo. We're going to let this animation play all the way out. And pretty lengthy animation. We get the res. I'm trying to move. I'm stuck in this animation for a long time. I also resed Ikoru. This game works sometimes. I don't know how it resed Okurogiri, despite my teammate being Bakugo. But, it did. I'm pretty sure I somehow resed an enemy. Yeah, I resed an enemy Kurogiri. I don't question it. But the point is, whenever you res, typically, you're locked in a very long animation. But there is a way to fix that. Now then, this time, we're going to try to res the correct teammate. We're going to go for the res on Mirio, but we're going to use the tech to recover from this faster. So instead of letting the animation play all the way out, we roll as we res our teammates, so we can move much sooner. Alright, and the same applies to when you're getting resed. As you can see here, we're gonna let ourselves get revived. And never mind, the game bugged! The game bugged again! The game bugged again! Bro, you can't... This game just can't work sometimes. Alright, the biggest tip of all, expect the unexpected. This game, it's not fully functioning sometimes. I can't even explain what just happened. I really can't. Alright, and to showcase properly this time, we're gonna get res. You can see here, if you get res normally, it takes a long time, or a decent amount of time before you can move. What you can do after the fact is you can melee after getting res to move out of it quicker. Alright, and to showcase how it looks if you do the melee to move quicker, the second you get res, just immediately melee, you can act out of it much quicker. Now the next up, I want to talk about the importance of having a looting path. It's very important that you have a looting path, ideally for each of the zones on a map, or maybe just like 3 zones in a map, 3 different general areas. That way you can get leveled up very efficiently. So right now, we're landing in Shopping Mall. Looks like no one's on us. That's perfect. I want to get my alpha maxed out as quickly as I can, and so I have a looting path for the Shopping Mall. I picked this spot specifically because a golden box can spawn sometimes here. I know that a guaranteed golden box spawns right there. There could be a golden box spawn right here as well as up there. Looks like we got lucky and we got both those spawns. There's rainbow floor loot that can spawn as well in this area, as well as a golden box, I believe, that can spawn here, and another one that can spawn over there. From here, I can go up top, and I know that a golden box can also spawn in that corner. Looks like we got a little unlucky there. It's not there, right? But I know the locations of where guaranteed box spawns, and I also know the location of where boxes can spawn. So I know where I can check. Right here, this is a box that can sometimes spawn in. We got lucky again. And because of that, you know, I land there. If there's a golden box there, I get that. I then progress right there, get that box. I go into here, clear this area out. I'll check up there. Then I'll make my way down here if my teammates haven't made their way down here already. You know, you don't want to take all the loot. You want to leave some for your teammates. See if they haven't taken this loot. If they haven't bothered, maybe they're looting over there or the parking lot. Then I'll grab the rainbow cards that can spawn there. But it's important for you to have a looting path that you can take on these maps so that you can level yourself up quite efficiently, especially if no one's landing on you. If no one's landing on you, you want to be very quickly ranking up your levels as quickly as you can. And outside of having looting spots, knowing where other boxes can spawn, maybe you got really unlucky where you landed, is a must. So for example, floor loot can be here, a golden box can spawn here. However, a golden box is guaranteed to always spawn in this corner. So I know, you know, maybe I'm not maxed out yet. I can stop by this building right here, hit that golden box that I know is always there, and get some very good loot. Again, I know a golden box can spawn in this room. It is in fact here. A golden box can also spawn in this corner. Got unlucky, it's not there. It's just, it's very imperative to you to learn looting spots for particular zones, and then beyond that, also know where some boxes can spawn. You know, a box can spawn there. You know where some floor loot can spawn. This map's very generous with rainbow cards and also golden boxes, but it's imperative that you learn that for all 3 of the maps as well. I'll also use this time to talk about this giant loot box right here, which spawns in a lot of loot. A lot of people like to land on this loot box, and they'll kind of do so without really thinking about their team composition, which is something you really have to keep in mind. You need to keep in mind who you're playing with, and what their characters are good at, if their characters are good enough early game characters to fight for something like this. Not all teams are very strong early game, and as such, landing box where people love to land is kind of a risky endeavor. You know, let's say in this case my teammates were Compress and Strike Shigaraki, and I'm playing Strike Deku. As Strike Deku, I might not mind scrapping early for the loot box, but my Compress and my Strike Shigaraki might struggle a little bit because those characters aren't really good super early in the match. So instead of picking the loot box, where again, you know, it's very likely at least one team lands there, instead of picking that and risking a team fight where my teammates are struggling heavily because their characters aren't super good early game, I'll rather pick someplace else, right? Because I want to just make sure my teammates can get their levels accordingly. And even more so, just from getting this box open, while I got some decent loot and a res card, I only came away with 4 rainbows and the upgrade everything item. So essentially 5 rainbows, right? Versus in the shopping mall, we definitely could have got ourselves maxed out from looting the shopping mall. So a lot of times, it's better to just kind of land in a name location that you have a looting path for, and just get maxed out in that location instead, as opposed to risking your life for 5 rainbows. I think it's also important to understand when you can't save your teammates, and also understand when your teammates can't save you. We've all been in that situation where, you know, one of our teammates goes down, and maybe, you know, they're a little bit tilted, they'll spam the danger pings, they'll be upset, they want you to go save them that instant, but if you go to save them, and maybe you're low HP in that instance as well, it's going to be more likely that you will die. You can't always safely get a revive on your teammates, especially if you're not playing an instant res character. Sometimes you have to just start running away and leave your teammates to die. You have to be able to assess the situation and think to yourself, is this a fight that I can see through? Can I actually win this fight and save my teammates? And if you don't think you can, there is nothing wrong with running away. Again, some people, they'll get tilted, they might danger ping spam, they might type something to you in the chat, but you have to understand, if all 3 people on your team goes down, that's game over, and there's no going back from that. So you need to be able to make the decision of, okay, can I get my teammates safely? Can I save them? Or do I want to run away to keep the team alive and bring them back at a later point? Alright, so in this situation, my teammates have gotten down. You know, I'm playing Deku, a character that can res, but my HP is also extremely low. If I go down there, it's very likely with all those people on the body, I'm going to die, right? So this is one of those situations where, realistically speaking, you should run away, you should try to heal yourself up. and then come back for their tags at a later point, because you yourself are in no way and no good shape to go for that res. You're more than likely just going to be feeding another kill to your opponents by going for a res in a situation like that. And it also ties into knowing when to go for your teammates' tags. In this situation, there's no one that I can see on my teammates' bodies. I do hear people, you know, close by me. A Hawks is behind me. Seems relatively safe, right? There's no one on their tags right now, so I feel safe enough to go for their tags, go in, go out, and try to gather res cards sometime elsewhere. You don't have to go for their res cards instantly if you think you're gonna die for it. You can wait for the situation to be a little bit safer before you go for your teammates' tags, because in this game, their tags do not ever disappear. Unless they leave the game, their tag will be there. You are not pressed against time. I know other Battle Royale games have like a time limit in which you have a certain amount of time to get their tag before it disappears, but this is not one of them. You really can take your time and go heal yourself up, wait for opponents to leave the area, and then go back and get their tags at a safer time. Now, you should always keep in mind, this game is a battle royale. You see all these people fighting, all these teams fighting. All these teams are against each other, and they're against me. Let's say, for example, one of these teams is really just destroying my team. That Kaminari team right there is super strong. We can't seem to beat them. We can take advantage. Looks like that Kaminari got third party by Shigaraki. Now I can go in. You don't necessarily have to take fights super head on. If a team is really destroying you, you can wait. Looks like that Kaminari got taken out. You can wait and third party that team and then attack them when they're weak, like this Tomer, for example. That's called third partying. You don't necessarily have to take a team fight, especially if it's a team that's just destroying you over and over and over again, and you're barely escaping the situation with your life. You can wait until that team starts to fight another team, and then third party them, interrupt their fight, and try to take them down then when they're distracted. Again, it's a battle royale. Every team is against each other. You have to make the most of everything presented to you and make the most of your situation at hand. Alright, let's talk disengaging. We're in a situation where my teammate just died, and I'm also very low HP as well, so we might want to run away. Now, the character you're playing can make this easy. You know, with a character like Hawks, I can just fly away, and not too many characters can keep up with me. Other characters, you might have a little bit of a harder time disengaging. You're probably more likely going to have to attack your opponents, get them a little bit weaker, make them kind of want to back off a little bit while also backtracking yourself, and just trying to apply some distance to you and your opponents and just keep moving off of that. The main thing is, it's very important to know when to make the attempt to try to get away. Sometimes you're fighting a fight that you're just not going to win. Sometimes you're just throwing yourself at your opponents and you're going to fall over and get down because of it. You really got to know when to disengage. And it's also important to take advantage of your environment and the jump pads throughout. They made it so you can see the location of jump pads based on this icon on the map this season. And they also added jump pads to the old map as well that you can utilize, which can help you disengage further from your opponents when trying to run away. But again, if you're losing a fight, let's say another team shows up and they start attacking the people that were beating you, and you now have a chance to run, take that chance to run and collect yourself. Don't stay in that fight, especially if your HP is super low, because you're very likely just going to go down. If you have a chance to disengage and run from a fight, really take that chance and collect yourself and come back to it at more HP. Next up, let's talk marinating. I say marinate a lot in my videos, and I'm sure some people probably don't really know what exactly I mean by that. Marinating is basically the act of staying in the storm and healing in storm, and basically just getting your bearings while within the storm, right? You're in a dangerous spot, but you're healing up, collecting your shields, healing for your HP, making sure you don't die to storm as well. Just really getting your bearings while being in the storm, you know? Maybe I'm super low shield and there's no safe spot inside the zone, so I go out into cover in the storm, get some shields on, and just make sure I don't die to the storm while doing so. Again, this is mainly a useful tactic. Let's say there's a couple enemies in front of me and I'm very low HP, but the storm's not taking for too much. I might want to just stay in storm for a little bit and just get my shields on and get some HP going. Maybe let my cooldowns refresh as well, you know, get my special action back so I can fly away and get some more distance from me and my opponents. Just kind of staying in storm and waiting the situation out and assessing it. Now, it's important to note the storm does become stronger as the match progresses, which means marinating becomes more and more risky because the storm will be taking you down more and more. So if you're a rapid character like Hawks, for example, you're only going to have 250 HP bar any tuning modifications, which means you're not really going to be able to marinate for too long as the zone progresses further and further and further. Characters with like 350, 400 HP, more or less, you can kind of marinate the entire way through. Though it is a risk if you are marinating and your opponents know you're marinating and they go out and storm and attack you and stop you from doing a heal, well, them hitting you out of that heal will more than likely condemn you to die. It's very unlikely, you know, if the storm's especially doing a lot of damage to you, that you'll be able to get a heal off after you're getting stopped out of it. So marinating is something that you have to assess the situation and think to yourself, do the opponents know I'm in storm? Are the opponents high enough HP to go into storm and stop me from healing? And if the answer is no, go for the Marination, heal yourself in Storm, collect your bearings in Storm. If it is yes, you're going to have to kind of pull your way forward and try to force your way into a spot where you could potentially heal yourself and collect yourself. So the Showcase being chased, again, you're in a fight, you do some damage to people. Again, they're going to combo you, they might mess you up severely. You might think to yourself, okay, there's nowhere safe for me to heal. I'm going to go into Storm. They're likely to chase you. You gotta fight back. You gotta get them low, give them a reason not to chase you. A lot of times, especially a rapid character, they're going to immediately run into Storm or out of Storm because they'll die if they stay in there too long. So you're gonna have to fight back sometimes, but as long as you fight back, get them a little bit low, hurt them a little bit, you can safely heal up in Storm. And again, sometimes they might be looking for you, they might be waiting for you. Sometimes there might be enemies on top of them that they have to worry about, so they can't really worry about you marinating in Storm where it's a bit safer. Now then, let's go over tuning. Tuning is a feature that they added in Season 8. You can go into the customization and then go to a costume and then click the tuning tab, and it brings you to this screen right here. What it does is allow you to equip perks on different slots based on the color for the slots, and these perks will do something different for you. You can see here we can increase the attack power of our moves with a red slot. The yellow slot, again, referencing the cards, are more defense oriented. The blue slots are more movement. The purple slots are more about your reload, and then the green slots are more about your health. The top two slots are more special and will do something unique for you. You can see here we can go ahead and make it so we get plus ultra for KOs, or live with 1 HP if we get hit with an attack that would down us. Over here we have something that increases our defense whenever we get guard broken or land a melee, for example. These slots are more like the perks you would see in something like Call of Duty. Now then, to equip one of these perks, you need some character data for the character you want to do. As you can see here, I have 221 for Kirishima. It takes 50 to put them into these slots right here. It takes 100 to put them into the slots up top up here. If you don't have the necessary character data, as you can see here, I only have 22 for Kendo, but you have the character unlocked, you can supplement the data using another resource that you get at the end of a match. Now then, as you can see on your screen right here, I only have 9 character data for Strike Kirishima, and I have 9 character data for Present Mic. I have Present Mic unlocked, so it lets me supplement the data using that resource that I have 2,000 of. However, because I don't have Kirishima on this account, I can't supplement the data. You need to have the character unlocked to supplement it, and if you don't have the character unlocked, you can still get the perk. I can still get Red Kirishima's perk right here, but I would need to get lucky and get enough of his character data to do so. I would need exactly 50 to do it. I can't supplement it, and that's just, you're relying a lot on RNG here. There's a lot of characters, and to my knowledge, there's no way of controlling what character data you get at the end of a match. So you're really trying to chance RNG. That means it's possible to get a perk for a character you don't have. I could get this Red Kirishima perk if I wanted to on a character, but I would need to play the game a very large amount and also get very, very lucky and get 100 of his character data to do so. Now then, you can go to the shop and go to standard, and you'll see some of the resources that you can buy. We go to Hero Souls. You can buy the items you need to upgrade the perks. You can buy the items you need to unlock the perk slots as well. And sometimes there's a sale. You can see here there was a discount that I took advantage of right here. So I highly recommend, if you have the resources to, you should probably get the discounted ones first and then buy these as you see fit. They did buff the battle pass as well if you were able to unlock the license this season. The battle pass does have a lot of tuning stuff to it. So if you are able to get the battle pass, you will be receiving a lot of tuning changes, or a lot of tuning resources as well from it. When it comes to making a tuning build for a character, all you have to do is ask yourself, what do you want from that character? Do you want that character to do a lot of damage, for example? Well, you can find a costume, potentially, that has a lot of reds equipped. If you want that character to maybe have more special perks focused on damaging, you can look for a costume that has 2 reds, for example. You can try to find a costume with some green perk slots if you want to make them more supportive. You know, maybe you want to carry more group heals or something. Basically, you have to ask yourself, what type of role do you want from this character? Do you want them to be tanky? Do you want them to be very strong? Do you want them to have more support capabilities? And then look for a costume that has the things that you want. Now, if your costume is a low rarity, you'll see it doesn't really cost too much to unlock the slots on this. It doesn't cost too much to upgrade it. However, you can't really upgrade the perks to a very high level, making these costumes a little bit more inferior to the PUR ones. The PUR ones are a bit more costly when it comes to unlocking slots, for example. It's going to cost me 50 right here, as opposed to the other one costing 1. However, you can upgrade them to a higher level and make these perks even more useful if they are a higher rarity costume. Something else to note, if you're making a build and you upgrade a perk to a high level, but you decide, okay, this perk's not really the perk for me, I want to change it, but I'm afraid that my level's going to reset. I have Aizawa's Embrittlement perk on this build. It's level 2. I'll go ahead and just change it to this Kirishima one right here, and you're going to see the Kirishima one, it's also level 2. The level of the perk will transfer over when you swap the perks out. So don't stress too much about upgrading the wrong perk. For example, again, if you're upgrading a perk and you find out, okay, this isn't the perk for me, I kind of want to change this to something else, you can do so, and you won't be penalized too much for it. The level will stay the same. You will lose out on resources, obviously, but the level of the perk, at the very least, will be whatever you got it to previously. The effects of perks also stack. So for example, if I were to equip the Assault Tomura perk right here, which increases the alpha defense, and then go down here and do the same thing with Kirishima, these two perks will stack and make the alpha defense even higher. So that's something to keep in mind. You can equip 2 like HP damaging perks, for example. You can equip 2 perks for movement or something, 2 perks that make your gamma stronger, and they will stack. Alright, that's going to conclude the tip video. I do think this is kind of more or less roughly put together. It was my first time doing a more general tips type video that can be applied to every character and any character. Usually, I'll do like the how to dominate, I'll show off the moveset of one character, their combos, explaining their moves. But this time, I figured I'd just put together a bunch of tips that can apply to numerous characters, if not the whole roster. And hopefully it was able to help you out if you are a new player, or if you're just a player who feels like you are struggling somewhere. I'm kind of hoping one of these tips maybe gives you the push you need, and helps you improve your gameplay, even if it's only just a little bit. Now that I really do hope this video was able to help you out in some fashion, and if you enjoyed it, give it a like. Thank you all so much for 30k subscribers. I really do appreciate every single one of you for indulging me, for supporting me and helping me reach this point. It really does mean a lot, and I can't thank you all enough. And I'll catch all of you in the next one. Later.